Our very aggressive Bitcoin short strategy has fired off yet another entry signal, and in today's video, I'll be going over why that might be a little bit of fool's gold, and also the most bullish thing, the most possibly bullish thing that has occurred in the last 24 hours. Other than that, I want to once again let you know that the programs and services that you do see in the Teachable School, which is in the link in the description below, are on sale for 20% off with the code BDAY in all capitals. BDAY, as you can see right there, or hopefully you can see right there. There it is. And of course, I should let you know that you can get this tool right here, which we've been using to set up these sort of trade strategies and automate back testing for them, and also even automate trade execution for them. You can get that with the same code BDAY for 80% off for the first month. So you can actually try it for a very, 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 very low dollar amount. Might even be able to spend a little bit of money and make a little bit of money. It's crazy how that works. It's a tool that actually might even help you. Crazy shit. Anyways, let's get into perhaps the most bullish thing that has happened in the last 24 hours, and it is indeed this. Jim Cramer, the very much inverse legend, has turned bearish on Bitcoin and crypto. I don't know if he was actually bullish before. I don't even know if this is true. But you know what? It confirms many beliefs out there that Bitcoin is indeed putting in one massive reaccumulation range, which is certainly possible as long as Bitcoin does hold the current lows. But as we'll be going over in today's video, I do believe that this might be a little bit of fool's gold, especially with the way that yesterday night's daily did close. Now, if you are a traditional classical chartist, if you're a traditional dildo watcher, basically, then you would be looking at yesterday night's closure as a hammer dildo. And indeed it is, actually. We do see a nice wick to the downside, closing green on the day. And you know, most people would look at that as an indication of a reversal coming. Now, here's the thing. I would not look at this as in any way actionable as long as Bitcoin is closing very specifically below that red moving average, that red 5 exponential moving average that we've alluded to so many times. All trending moves begin and end with that moving average, meaning that if you are going to get an actual reversal, you would expect to see at minimum price closing above that number in order to even produce the impetus for a nice bounce. Now, going back into the opening ceremonies right here, I do want to say that the strategy has fired off another entry, and it will remain in position as long as Bitcoin is below, or closing the day below, I should say, that red 5, which is currently at just below 58,000 bucks, and that would imply that there is, you know, a decent probability of a downside move. Now, keep in mind this strategy, not the best strategy that we have, but when it does come to short side, it does give us a little bit of an edge here. 33 or just over 33% of these setups have been profitable, and that does have a positive profit factor. So it is going to net you a decent equity curve when you look at it from the totality of it up and to the right, although it does definitely give up a lot of those gains, as you can see. But what I'm most interested in right here is not just the win rate, but also the average return and the average amount of time taken in these trades. So the average winning trade did produce about almost 9% in profit, 9%, you know, in terms of price action for profit. And the average losing trade, losing an average about 3.5%. Now, the average amount of bars in the winning trades has been a 5. So we would expect that this, you know, likely turns around, or, you know, likely continues relatively soon. And the average amount of bars in losing trades is actually 2. So what does that essentially mean in the context of this strategy? Look, if it's going to fail, we'd expect Bitcoin to pop back up and close very specifically the daily above 58,000 bucks between now and what is today? Thursday? Today's, holy shit, this week is just flying on by. Basically by Friday evening. And if Bitcoin does not, then downside is going to be more likely. And of course, the average return for those winning trades has been about 8%, and 8% puts you back down around 53,000 bucks. $53,000 is going to pop up a little bit later in our analysis, so definitely keep in mind on that. But what I also want to get into right here is just a reminder, and I'm going to continue to remind myself until basically the end of September, that in the first half, especially the first like 18, 19, 20 days of September, Bitcoin traditionally is more bearish than it is not. We have seen, you know, generally negative returns for that time frame. But once that third week occurs, basically correlating with the quad witching date, a lot of the times we do see a pivot on price action. A lot of the times we actually do see the rest of September actually produce upside price action. So in this case, we've done a study right here where the average low in September has occurred on average about 15 days into the month. So a little bit over 2 weeks. And realistically, we've only seen twice where it's happened in like the first couple days of September. Only twice have we seen it, be on September 2nd or sooner. Or I mean, there is no sooner date than that, but on September 2nd. Other than that, it's been mostly in the second or even third week. So I would say that again, statistically speaking, it's unlikely that Bitcoin has stopped the downside for this month just yet, which is why I am going to be favoring setups like this, especially as long as Bitcoin is below that red 5. But when things do switch around, probably does switch around fast and likely does provide a nice upside move into end of month. So again, we're waiting for that sort of quad witching date, or at least like the midway point of September, or at least that's what I'm waiting for. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do, use this information in whatever way that you want. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into just specific pivot points for Bitcoin using the HPDR as usual. We can see that Bitcoin's still playing in this lower block now between the 50% and the 61.8 level right here. That does imply that if Bitcoin does close below the 61.8 level, I would be looking for the next sort of actionable move down slightly below 55,000 bucks, closer to maybe 54.5 to 54.8 region, somewhere around there. Again, on a daily closing basis, we'd want to see Bitcoin hold basically 57,200 on CME, which there's a slight, very slight premium over spot price action. So, of course, the more that Bitcoin just holds here without, dumping, and especially, again, I'll say basically the same statement that I've been saying for like a week and a half now. The more that Bitcoin trades sideways here, just eating up time in September into that quad witching date, the more and more likely that will be, this whole price action right here will be looked at as, just one massive reaccumulation. But until then, it is more under pressure than not, from those statistical probabilities. Moving on from there, I do want to look at the 5-day time frame. That one did just close last night, and yeah, playing in this block right here, 5-day closure below 57,000 bucks, which is not going to be happening for another 6 days actually on CME. And at that point, yeah, I'd have to be looking somewhere down around about 53, very low 53s, very low 53s. So again, that number kind of popping up a little bit later that we alluded to earlier. In fact, when we go over here to our momentum charts, again, just being the messenger. One, I should point out that the green 55 exponential moving average is all the way down at 53,300, also on the 5-day as well. And traditionally, you will get a test somewhere down around there when you see the 5 or even the 9, as I typically use, cross the 21 to the downside. So a lot of the time, you'll get a test down around there. Doesn't mean it's going to break, but a test somewhere closer to there is within the realm of possibilities. And again, as long as the quad witching date does not happen, which is not until I believe the 3rd week of this month, have to be kind of defensive for a move like that. But even if Bitcoin were to come down and test it, it doesn't mean it's going to break it. So that's a whole different question. But here's the thing. When we do look at stochastic momentum on CME, still everything is positioned to the downside here in the short term. Daily time frame showing downside as long as Bitcoin's below 59,350 as of right now, about 200 bucks, or sorry, not 200, but 2,000 bucks below that pivot. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. Okay. And the microphone's working. That's also good. 2-day time frame, which closed last night, is fresh down as long as Bitcoin's below 58, basically 58,000 bucks. Not super concerning right there just yet. It is quite close to the pivot, but again, the longer that Bitcoin stays below here, the more and more likely it is going to continue to the downside. Let's actually see what the 3-day time frame looks like. I have not checked on this one. 3-day time frame also going to be showing downside below 59,700. This one closing tonight, by the way, as well. 5-day time frame also closed last night, I do believe, for CME, and also still to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 59,200. And the weekly, of course, which is going to close tomorrow night, is showing downside as long as Bitcoin's below 62,400. So again, if there's a time to be defensive right now, it'd be that time. We do see all of the higher term timeframes kind of aligning with each other while volatility is incredibly low. So we probably do see that test. The real question is, does it hold or not? Because at the end of the day, if it does hold and we get into like the back half of September, it could very easily look something like this, come down here, something like that, and then pop back up in late September, early October, which typically is a more bullish month, and very specifically take out this last high that we saw from late August. If it does something like that, really, 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 really good. This would essentially mark this off or confirm this all as one massive reaccumulation. And, have to be looking upwards and always from there. that would still make me think that the cycle probably does end before Q1 of it, is over of 2025. But I think it'd produce some pretty exciting times for the end of this year and beginning of 2025. And who knows how high things can go from there if that would happen. But it's a long way away right now. And again, as of the moment, at least from the perspective that I have, better to be defensive. Anyways, I think I've hit all my notes here for today. Again, just a nice and short and sweet one. I do want to remind you, or if I did I already remind you? Yeah, we have a sale going on. Yeah, we already went over this. All the programs and services are 20% off with the code BDAY in all capitals, but the Krown Quant Automation, which is what we use to automate backtesting and even trade execution, that is going to be 80% off for the first month. So cool. That's it. That's it. That's it. And here's a real analysis. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.